All right, joining us now is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Pete, good morning to you, first of all.
Good morning.
Good morning. So the president
Great to see you all.
Good to see you too. Thanks for your service. The president put that video of him eviscerating, blowing up that boat coming across with all of the drugs on board. And the president said on social, on Truth Social, let them be on notice to anybody bringing drugs to the U.S. Beware. So the president is sending a message to other cartels, right?
A very clear one. I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States, trying to poison our country with illicit drugs. Last year, under the Biden administration, all 4 years, 100,000 Americans died from drug-related from drugs, from the use of drugs, many of which poured in from Central and South America through our southwest border. Now, we're sealing the border, but President Trump is willing to go on offense in ways that others have not been. And to send that clear signal to Tren de Aragua, Cartel del Sols, and others emanating from Venezuela, we're not going to allow this kind of activity. You're poisoning our people. We've got incredible assets, and they are gathering in the region. And so you want to try to traffic drugs? It's a new day. It's a different day. And so those 11 drug traffickers are no longer with us, sending a very clear signal that this is an activity the United States is not going to tolerate in our hemisphere.
Well, Mr. Secretary, you made it very clear when we had the opportunity to visit the southern border at Fort Bliss. The Southern Command knew exactly where these folks were and that you guys were going to take them out. I guess the question is, for this operation specifically, was this a drone attack or was this hellfire from a helo?
I can't disclose precisely how this went down. I can tell you it was precision. It was very well understood exactly what assets would be used in order to achieve the effect. So that's classified how it was done. But you can see publicly a lot of the assets that we have in the region, which to include an ARG-MU, which holds 2,200 combat infantry Marines and has plenty of its own organic assets. So we've got assets in the air, assets in the water, assets on ships, because this is a deadly serious mission for us. And it won't stop with just this strike. Anyone else trafficking in those waters who we know is a designated narco-terrorist will face the same fate. And it's important for the American people to protect our homeland and protect our hemisphere.
So their leader, Maduro, who we put a $50 million bounty on his head, has called out to China for help in this. And China's condemning the U.S. And saying, I shouldn't use the word condemn. They're warning us we should look out for the different countries' integrity. Are you worried about China and their relationship with Venezuela? And how will that affect our policy?
No, the only person that should be worried is Nicolas Maduro, who's running effectively as a kingpin of a narco state, not actually elected and indicted for $50 million by the United States. And we know he's involved in the types of drug running that has affected the American people directly. So China and other countries are going to say certain things, and that's their prerogative. What we have there in the Caribbean is a clear demonstration of military might. President Trump has shown, whether it's the southwest border, whether it's the Houthis in freedom of navigation, whether it's Midnight Hammer in Iran, that the precise application of American power can have incredible impacts and reshape dynamics around the world and in the region. So Nicolas Maduro, as he considers whether or not he wants to continue to be a narco trafficker, has some decisions to make. And that's all I'll say about that.
Is regime change our goal there?
Well, that's a presidential decision, and we certainly understand the indictment. We understand the $50 million. Anyone would prefer that he would just give himself up, but that's a presidential level decision, and we're prepared with every asset that the American military has.
It's incredible that y'all were able to track that boat, know that there were 11 narco-terrorists on board, and be able to take it out to prevent all those drugs from making it into the United States and killing so many teenagers, so many 20-year-olds, whoever's doing drugs in the U.S. So thank you for that. I don't know how you did it. I'm sure you have intel that you can't talk about. But let's talk about China this morning, because while we were sleeping, China was celebrating. They're having this parade in Tiananmen Square featuring a display of advanced equipment. And they invited Putin and they invited Kim Jong-un in attendance. So what message are they trying to send, and what is the administration's response?
Well, unfortunately, the weakness of the previous administration has driven Russia and China closer together. That was a terrible development of a lack of American leadership and a lack of American strength. And you saw it around the world. And it manifests in what we saw on TV last night. But that's why President Trump has charged us at the Defense Department to be prepared, to rebuild our military in historic ways, to restore the warrior ethos and reestablish deterrence, not because we seek conflict. We do not. And we've been clear about that with China or Russia or others. But because by being prepared, you prevent it. You ensure that the American people and the homeland are safe. And demonstrations of parades are fine, but they don't hopefully manifest in actually military conflict. So we know what they believe and what they're about. We also know how strong we are and the military advantages we have. They know that also. Our job's to maintain those military advantages in space, in the skies, in the sea, under the sea, and with long-range fires. All the capabilities we have, Golden Dome, which is something China knows they can't replicate, and we will inside this administration. So we're going to maintain the strategic advantage. President Trump has a great relationship with President Xi, and we'll leverage that in hoping to find ways that we can work together. Otherwise, we'll always be prepared.
So, Mr. Secretary, part of the president's philosophy is peace through strength. He wants to be able to have negotiations. He doesn't want to start any new wars. He wants to end a lot of wars. But one thing he does want to do is have the perception and the philosophy of the military to get back to the original origin. And one way he wants to do that with changing the name from Defense to Department of War. What is the timeline on that?
I've said stand by on it, and that's what I'll say again, because that's ultimately the president's call. But I'll say this. You know, we won World War I and we won World War II, not with the Department of Defense, but with a War Department, with the Department of War. As the president has said, we're not just defense, we're offense. We're reestablishing at the department the warrior ethos. We want warriors, folks that understand how to exact lethality on the enemy. We don't want endless contingencies and just playing defense. We think words and names and titles matter. So we're working with the White House and the president on it. Stand by, but we might have some new signage here, right over here, eventually.
We look forward to it.
Well,
even here in the briefing room.
And we'll see if you have to go to Kinko's to change your business cards. That's going to be something that's going to make a decision from the White House, I'm sure. All right, so let's talk about the National Guard. If there's going to be a similar display of federal muscle in Chicago as in D.C., the National Guard will play a role. But yesterday there was a decision that came down by a judge in San Francisco, Breyer, I think it's brother of the Supreme Court Justice, who said the president should not have deployed troops, troops into Los Angeles. I assume that means the National Guard because you also put Marines in there. They said you can't do investigations, you can't aid the ICE or police officers. They really limited anything National Guard can do. How will that affect what happens in Chicago if the president decides to put National Guard in there?
Well, Brian, that'll be appealed. It already has been appealed in California because it's an incorrect decision. Ultimately, the president had every authority. The National Guard was working completely within those confines, supporting law enforcement, protecting federal buildings and federal agents. That's what we said we were going to do from the beginning, and that's what we did. So everything we did in Los Angeles was lawful and, by the way, effective. Gavin Newsom wasn't willing to do what was needed to prevent a Summer of Love 2.0. And so we got in there, secured the city alongside federal law enforcement. We supported them. That'll be appealed. That'll be overturned. And what you see in Washington is the right kind of collaboration with state, local, city law enforcement. You've seen a city reborn, safe and beautiful. It's a template for what that cooperation could look like. The National Guardsmen, I talked to some of them yesterday at the street. They were a little surprised when I stopped my convoy and the Secretary of Defense got out and these National Guard soldiers from West Virginia were on patrol. But they were proud of what they were doing. They were excited to be in their nation's capital and securing it. We've seen crime rates plummet in the city. So whether it's Chicago or Baltimore or New Orleans, wherever it is, we'll be proud to partner with law enforcement that'll partner with us. But as the president has said, he wants governors to invite us in. And unfortunately, you've got some governors that aren't willing to do that in Illinois and Maryland. So that's the president's call. We'll see what happens next. But we're proud of the missions we've done so far. It's part of protecting American citizens, just like our southwest border. The invasion is over. The lawlessness and the chaos is over. We will work with our federal partners appropriately to help secure the American people.
Hey, Mr. Secretary, Trump said we're going in. So he said that yesterday. So I'm wondering what the timeline might be if when he's going into Chicago. And then what's your response to Governor Pritzker? He said that the president is begging me to call him. He said it's been a really difficult 10 days. Lawrence was saying, I've been covering this for years. It's been more than 10 days. And I refuse to play a reality game with Donald Trump again.
It's been a tough 10 days for the governor. What about the people that live in Chicago? What about the folks that live with unending violence right in their backyard, with an incompetent government and mayor and governor who are unwilling to provide just basic security? So I don't feel bad for Governor Pritzker. He should be welcoming support. He should be welcoming outside efforts to come alongside him, just as, frankly, the mayor of Washington mostly has. So he's playing a shell game. It's a charade. He knows that his city's out of control. It's the president's decision when on Chicago and what the scale looks like. But the folks in Chicago, folks in Illinois, deserve to live peacefully like everywhere else. Unfortunately, they have dysfunctional leaders.
And Mr.
Who won't
Secretary,
do
you
real
know
things.
about this job, too, because you used to be in the National Guard. You know, all these people talking about what the National Guard can do. You used to command a unit with the National Guard. You took fire from protesters, so you know what they can do.
I held a riot shield in Lafayette Square in 2020 during those riots. I've been a part of walking blocks and presence patrols. I know exactly what they can do. I know exactly what they can't do. We made sure that they're able to protect themselves by carrying weapons in Washington, D.C., which is not controversial. It's common sense. I always wanted that ability when I wasn't able to be armed. So it is pretty unique. Myself, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, also has served in the National Guard. So I understand intimately what these units are capable of, the types of units you would want. How long you'd want them there, the types of missions, how they can work with law enforcement. And so we're happy to support in every way the president's belief that we should be helping to secure American cities where Americans deserve to live safely.
This is probably the last time we're going to have the chance to say this, but thank you, Mr. Secretary of Defense.
Right.
We'll introduce